Oh my God.
That's
Showbiz, baby.
This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Oh my God. The Mets are one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome into episode 8 of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse who bring you this podcast because we are lifelong Mets fans, and we want you to hear inside insight into the facts, the fascination, and the farm behind the New York Mets. We're planning on doing a mailbox episode at some point in the near future, so be sure to comment with any questions that you might have when we do decide to push that out. But for now, the Mets are 540-40. We're recording this on Sunday. They're playing their last game against the Astros as we speak, so we will have live updates. I feel like that happens to us every single week.
We keep recording as they're playing. Sorry.
But the Mets are great. Yep. OMG.
Oh my God. I'm going to spare everyone from my singing, but let's just discuss. Can we just discuss Oh my God for a second?
Yeah, you know what? Baseball aside.
I need to talk about the concert. I need to get some things off my chest. First of all, Oh my God is a certified banger. I don't know what half of it means. I actually am not fluent in Spanish. I did find the lyrics. Some guy on Reddit was kind enough to translate the whole thing.
Wait, thank you to that guy on Reddit.
Thank you to that guy on Reddit. Also, why am I on Mets Reddit? Let's not discuss.
Right. There's a lot of questions there.
Topic. But
I feel like you're on Reddit a lot.
I'm kind of a Reddit stalker. Let's not talk about that right now. Oh my God's a banger. First of all, Candelita is a banger. Forget about Oh my God, okay? I went on a deep dive. We don't have to get into my life and the details here, okay? But I have been through a little period this week where, you know, you go through some things, you struggle to listen to your regular music. Mm-hmm. So I was driving back home I went home this week, 3-hour drive, and it was the day Oh my God came out. And I was like, you know what we're throwing at this problem? We're throwing Candelita and Spanish, like Oh my God, the whole way back. And we're going to be happy. And
you needed an upper.
No, I needed an upper.
And that's like song of the summer. I don't know how you could listen to that and be anything other than pumped up, excited, happy. Yeah. So what did you find on the lyrics from Reddit? Like, what stuck out to you?
So here's the thing. Jose Iglesias manifested this for the Mets with this song. I mean, forget about how good the song is and the Oh my God. The lyrics in Spanish are literally manifestation. It goes like, it goes the chorus, oh my God, throw everything bad away, grant me health and prosperity. I have nothing, but I'm happy. Only memories live in me, dreams to fulfill, and I'm gonna do it. It might be crazy, but it's not lazy. Until I achieve them, I'll follow them. And then it keeps
I have
going.
Chills right now.
Dreams to fulfill, and I'm gonna do it. Like, that's the Mets.
They're like, I mean, you could say it was this. You could say it was Grimace. I often find myself thinking about Seymour Wiener. I mean, the signs have been there, laced throughout the entire season. And what I can say, certifiably, matter-of-factly, is that the Mets are the most electric team in baseball right now.
They are one of the hottest. They are the most fun by far. I mean, we will get into our tweets. Mets Twitter this week was fantastic. But let me know what other team is having a concert on the damn field after they win.
Like a free concert, and all the fans are still there.
Our intern was there. Dan was there.
No,
yes,
again?
Dan was there for the Candelita, and he sent us like a couple of videos and stuff and he was like in the rafters. He was so high up, but it looked so fun. Everybody's just like, oh my God. I was like, Dan, please.
Well, we have to get into it. Again, at this point, the Mets are 40-40. We'll see what happens with this game. They are half a game out of the NL wildcard and have won 16 of their last 21 games. You heard that right. So I guess we'll go tweet of the week first and then stat of the week because It just feels like that makes the most sense.
Sure.
There are a couple of here. I want you to take the High School Musical one because this was really the banger. This might be.
I can't even read this without laughing.
This might be atop the list.
Okay. Well, it was actually an Instagram comment, and then this account KC_@bat like tweeted a picture of the Instagram comment. The Instagram comment was from Big Blue Nate 9. Shout out Big Blue Nate. Okay. He said the Astros are getting effing High School Musicaled right now. The Astros got High School Musicaled. And then the second one after that by @DPLOL said, imagine losing 7-2 and then the team you lose to performs an effing concert. Like, you're the Astros and you're in the opposing clubhouse. You're like, what the F is going on right now on the field?
That's what I mean. You're not even like, I don't even feel like you're mad or upset at that point. You're literally dazed, confused, probably feel like you're hallucinating.
You got High School Musical.
Like you just got High School Musical. And again, you see more of these. Is this word hijinks or is it, do you know this word?
I think hijinks.
I
yeah.
think hijinks too. Okay, this is by Maggie Wiggin at Maggie162. She said, I love when there's hijinks on a national broadcast because you just know the Astros fans feel like they're in a bizarre fever dream. Like, no, baby, that's not drugs. That's the Mets. I mean, yeah.
Welcome to Citi Field. We have concerts after the game that you didn't know were coming.
Like free concerts.
By the players.
Come on.
So fun.
So thanks to everybody for the tweets of the week. One more that we saw by PJ Clark that stood out at the real PJ Clark. The New York Mets have found salvation in a purple cartoon from a fast food restaurant and a 34-year-old backup second baseman who now raps on the field after wins. I mean, that's poetry.
Poetry. Also, I had to highlight that because I went to school with PJ Clark. He was older than me, so I didn't really know him, knew of each other. But that was, anytime you see someone that you really do know go viral, that's a weird moment. And PJ, you really hit on one with that.
Wait, really? How viral?
Like really viral, like had like 4,000 likes.
Oh
Like,
my God, good for
totally went
him.
viral on Mets Twitter. Yeah, he works in like the NFL, like football, social media stuff.
Wait, you love to see that.
You do.
All right, over to the stats because obviously we want to talk baseball with y'all too. The Mets right now have an, I guess you would say, .857 winning percentage in the Grimace era, which is since June 12th.
Which is insane.
I mean, that is just, to say that exceeded the expectations would still be an understatement.
Yeah.
I remember when we were having an episode a few episodes ago, and every single person was like, I would just love it if we could get to 500 by July 4th.
Yeah.
And for them to hit that mark, we'll see if they stay there, but to hit that mark in June, I don't think there's one person in the fan base who would have told you that they expected this.
It's oh my God.
It's oh my God. And it's the perfect name for the song, and it's the perfect description for what's going on with the Mets right now. This is also per Anthony DiComo. Since May 30th, the Mets have averaged 6.51 runs per game, almost a full run greater than the next best team, which is the Yankees, and more than double the bottom ranked Marlins. I mean, yeah, hot is an understatement. They're on effing fire.
Yeah, they are. Also, just apologies at the front of this episode. Disclaimer: do not take a drink every time we say "Oh my God" or "OMG" because you'll be dead by the time this episode's over.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is not a drinking game. Anyways,
it could be if you want it to be. If you're not at work,
don't do that. Yeah, the Mets are so hot, and we'll get into this. But I said this on our last episode: they needed to beat good teams. Swept the Yankees in a 2-game series. That's a good team. Now the Astros, we'll see what happens here. They're tied up in the 8th. Maybe we could see some extras in this rubber game, but the Astros have been the Astros have been the hottest team in the American League. Mets have been the hottest team in the National League recently. So to see them being this competitive against good teams, not going to prove it all to me, but it's proving something.
Because you knew going into this series that it was going to be spicy.
Yeah.
The Yankee series was, all right, they beat a good team. But the Astros series is, can you beat a hot team?
Yes.
Like, which team is hotter? And obviously right now the series is tied 1-1. But the fact that when I was looking over these notes, I don't know, an hour and a half ago,
Yeah.
the score was 4-0 and the Mets were down. Like, there's an old version of Sam and an old version of many Mets fans who would be like, oh, you know, it's over.
Yeah.
You come in this studio to tell me, hey, it's 4-2 and we might have something here. And we go back inside to watch on the TV and it's 4-4.
It was 20 seconds. I walked in here to Sam to be like, hey, I'm here, like time to record. I walked back in, Brandon Nimmo had a home run. I was like, what happened? Like,
it's
crazy.
a different kind of Mets team that you always feel can come back. And I'm going to actually shoot right into our comment of the week because I feel like it puts that on display. This is from Cheese Whip Jeep 454.
Fire name.
Great name, by the way. We also happen to see, if you're watching this episode, that you also had a profile picture that matched that description. And I really loved that.
Iconic.
That meant something to me.
Yeah.
And he or she said, the Mets are the borderline personality disorder of the National League. So I decided that I would just look up borderline personality disorder just so I could really feel what he was trying to say.
Right.
Obviously a mental health condition, but it says people with BPD have extreme mood swings, unstable relationships, and trouble controlling their emotions. When I thought about Mets fans, I'm like, that actually kind of fits that description pretty well. Hilarious comment. 10 out of 10, possibly 11 out of 10.
Yeah, possibly 11. We've said this so many times, but the Mets have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. We are either 15 games under 500, there's no hope, everything's being ripped to shreds, or we're having concerts on the field and we can't lose a game. Like, literally, there's no in between. It's a very emotional and unstable relationship because you're either so good or you're so bad. There is no middle ground.
And that's kind of my point is I feel like Mets fans catch a lot of shade because there's always an LOL Mets moment and whatever.
Yeah.
But if you were in this fan base, like, who wouldn't feel this way? Like, the highs are so high, the lows are so low, and everything in between is hilarious or exhilarating in some way. I don't know one person who wouldn't feel the way that we're feeling right now if you weren't a part of this fan base.
No,
it's a very unique experience.
Definitely. Which brings us to, our topics. And I just wanted to highlight another tweet that I saw this week at Mets Score Please had a meme of Jose Iglesias as Miley Cyrus and then Hannah Montana as Candelita. Like, Jose Iglesias is a second baseman by day, 34-year-old veteran guy, Miley Cyrus, and then the shadows come out and he's Hannah Montana freaking having concerts.
He was a turning point, and I honestly would boldly say, and this is impressive because of how good Mets Twitter is, but since we started this podcast, there might have been the best memes, the best one-liners that I've honestly seen so far. Like, surpassed the Grimace week.
Definitely.
Okay.
Jose Iglesias' Candelita has been. Also, they are now in a position, which I saw some people point out, they cannot ever get rid of Jose Iglesias. I mean, maybe in a couple years, but you're telling me you're going to release this guy? He's the best vibes guy this team has had, ever. So, Jose Iglesias, you actually sang your way into keeping your job. And hit your way because you're hitting over 400. So let's not minimize
act like
the
it was
talent.
just the song.
But the singing combined with the hitting, Jose Iglesias, yeah.
We are locked into you and you are locked into this team. It does bring us to our topics. And I think we basically hit this every week at this point, but we hit it every week because our feelings change about it every week.
Every week.
What are they going to do? Should they buy? Should they sell? Do you feel differently than, I don't know, last week?
I feel better than last week, and I felt pretty good last week. I mean, I told you my biggest hang up and my biggest still hater Mets fan take was that show me you can do it against good teams. Now, it's not like we've had a stretch against the best teams. I do recognize that. The Yankees are one of the best teams in baseball, one of the best records. The Yankees have been in a slump recently, so there is that. But they took both games from the Yankees. They also didn't just take both games. They really dominated both of those games. I mean, they won the second game 12-2. They faced the Yankees' two best starting pitchers and flat out embarrassed them. And also the Mets right now, not just with the Yankees, but with all the teams they've been beating recently, are beating these teams' aces. They're beating these teams' number one pitchers. Garrett Cole had a bad day against the Mets, and now they're doing it again to the Astros. They are knocking these teams' top starters out of games, which is a testament to how hot the lineup is. So I haven't seen enough. After the break against the Phillies, I need to see progress against a team like the Braves. Like, if they come out of the break and they all of a sudden get swept by the Phillies and lose 2 out of 3 to the Braves, then I'm in a different spot. But they handled the Yankees. They are doing their best against the Astros, which, by the way, the game's in a rain delay. So
awesome.
There's that. But yeah, I've seen a little bit. They're proving it somewhat.
Yes. Listen, the devil on my shoulder always goes back to the Mike Croston episode.
The Mike Croston.
Where that big question is still, can they beat the best teams in the NL? You want to see the games against the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Brewers, because what is it all worth if they get booted out of the playoffs right away?
Yeah.
You want to actually see a deep run if you're going to commit to this. And the other problem is, I feel like every week when we sit down here and I want to express the way I'm feeling, there's something that's in the way where I feel like I haven't seen every piece together yet.
Yeah.
This week, that is the Edwin Diaz and the relief pitcher situation. I still sometimes feel like I haven't seen it all together. And that's what I'm missing. I want to know when Senga comes back. And I know we don't know exactly what to expect, but when that happens, when Diaz is back, you have all of these guys now hitting. Like, I need to see every single piece together to really know how I feel about that. And the truth of the matter is, not only for us, but also for the decision makers, that might just not be possible. You might just have to make a decision without all that.
They are. I mean, because frankly, we're not going to have Senga, even if Senga comes back. What is he? So we're not going to, and I've been saying this the weeks prior to this, we're not going to have a full, clear picture at the All-Star break. No. That's just life. That's showbiz. But
that's showbiz, baby.
Showbiz, baby. Sorry. But
I feel like the High School Musical got to you.
Yeah, it did. A little High School Musical came out. I think the bottom line is, in terms of this buying and selling debate, they have absolutely turned a corner. Even if they lose today, that's still 16 of your last 22 at that point. So we've turned a corner. Even if we lose this series, if they lose this series, I believe that would be their first series they've lost in over a month. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they win it and we keep this train rolling and I get to keep seeing the guy who makes
the Grim Reaper.
The Grim Reaper.
I was just thinking about that. Whoever is making the Grim Reaper memes, you are my hero.
That's the best one. That's my favorite one.
Yep.
But John Harper, formerly of the New York Daily News, now he just kind of makes guest appearances on SNY, has been on the beat of this team forever. He said this week, strong consensus among scouts and execs I spoke to that Mets have legitimately turned a corner, will be bullpen buyers at deadline. A few noted the advantageous schedule in July, 18 games versus National Pirates, Rockies, and Marlins, which we have discussed. Look, I mean, we've talked about this. Mike Croston talked about this. It's a dangerous game to have
advantageous or not.
Advantageous or not. At the same time, they are doing so well right now, exceeding our 500 on July 4th expectations, that at some point, it's like, well, that just is what it is. You can't, is it dangerous because these aren't the best teams in the league? Sure, but if your record is so much improved by the All-Star break, that's showbiz. You got to buy.
No, you're right.
Sorry, I got to stop saying that showbiz.
The first time it really hit. The second time I'm like, I've never heard you say that before today.
Stop saying that.
No, honestly, I agree. At some point, it's not necessarily a matter of what could be or what the future could hold or even what you're hearing. I think you need to believe what you see.
Yeah.
And we're seeing things that make us feel hopeful in a way that I know that I haven't felt hopeful in for the entire year. I mean, this is one of the craziest Junes that I've just ever witnessed with my own eyes my entire life. And I feel very inspired by what I'm seeing. I think a part of that, not by any means the whole thing, but one thing that's changed things around is Lindor moving to leadoff. You believe that changed a lot. I mean, since May 18th, when Lindor was moved to leadoff, the Mets offense is first in average OBP, slugging, OPS.
In the league, not in the NL, in all of baseball.
I mean, that matters. And I know it wasn't the whole thing, but it feels like the team meeting and then the changes in the lineup, like something, it's not like, this is, I guess my point is, it's not that some of these hitters who were in the lineup couldn't hit before, but they're hitting better now. And I think that switching some pieces around really changed that. It shifted things around.
And I think you have to credit that to Carlos Mendoza, which we'll get into in a second. But I just think that we talked about this at the beginning of the year. It is, the Mets were almost underachieving so much to a point that it was unbelievable in April and May, because you had this lineup. We would sit here when we started this podcast and we'd be like, this is not a bad team. This is actually a team full of literal all-stars in this lineup. So they were underachieving so heavily. Now the question is, are they overachieving or are they just playing up to really who these guys have been their whole careers?
I know.
mean, these hitters who are now hitting, Lindor, Alonso to an extent. Alonso's gotten a little bit hot recently, but especially Lindor as of late, Nimmo, JD, like these are just the types of hitters these guys have been. They had to warm up, and they did. Lindor also, by the way, I just think is so heavily underappreciated in baseball. I did a deep dive into Francisco Lindor this week. And
Reddit?
He's not Reddit. He's headed towards another 30-30 season. He is the 7th best wins above replacement in the NL. Like, Francisco Lindor could be a Hall of Famer, which for some reason was not really something that I grasped until I started to see some people put that out there. He ranks first among active shortstops in home runs, extra base hits, and runs. Like, this is a guy, he does a couple more years of this. I mean, he has a lot of more years on his contract, but 4 or 5 more years of this type of production, Francisco Lindor is going to be in Cooperstown.
And this is us zooming out, but really, like, look back at our first and second and third episode a month and a half plus ago when the Mets truly were sucking, and we still said then that we really thought that they were. We never said they were a talentless team.
No.
We always knew that they had the pieces. It was just a matter of why are they not making it work? I do think that the culture, I mean, people, like when you say that the reason why Candelita needs to stay on this team now is not just because of his hitting, it's because of the culture that he has brought and because of the way he's brought people together, it's true. Like that has made more of a difference than I think people could ever possibly know. And we see what we see, which are the videos and the pictures of them all hanging out together and dancing and supporting one another. But everything you see, I think, is a reflection of all of the things you don't see when they're all in the locker room together. And something really big has changed. I think the player meeting was a part of it, and that you do have to credit to someone like Lindor, who really was the one who got that started, made people take some more accountability. But beyond that, like they're just having more fun.
Yeah.
It's just a more fun team.
Totally. Baseball's a funny game in terms of hitting is so contagious. Baseball, we've talked about this. It's such an individual
Which is weird, but
sport.
true.
Yeah, right. It's such an individual sport. You put these guys on a field together, but at the end of the day, it is all of their individual performances grouped together that either make a team very good or very bad. That's why it's so funny that culture and momentum is so contagious in this game, because the minute a couple guys get rolling, it really does just trickle down throughout the lineup, and you turn into that why not us mentality, and the Mets have turned into why not us.
Why not us?
And that's a dangerous thing.
Why do I feel like we might need shirts that say that?
Why
I don't
not
know.
us?
But why not us?
Why not this podcast?
Why not? Wait, why not this podcast? Why not? Why am I a Mets fan podcast? But listen, why couldn't it be them? It brings us to our next topic, which is the bullpen. Lot going on. The fact that Diaz is suspended until Saturday, July 6th, that will be against the Pirates. He obviously did not appeal that suspension, kind of just ate it. Really hilarious moment when you're seeing on his Instagram story, great job out there, guys. And he's just like,
he's at the
somewhere in
Candelita
Citi
concert
Field.
in the stands. I have a couple questions about that. Like, he
Wait,
can't
same.
be with the team. I understand that he's suspended, can't be in the dugout. I understand, but who gave that man, what does he have to buy a ticket?
Like he wasn't in a great seat.
No, it was actually quite a terrible seat.
Like he looked pretty far away.
Like, is Edwin Diaz out there with the usher being like, hey, like, just trying to, he has a hot dog. He's just
I don't
like
know.
taking in the game.
Like there's no way, because then too many people would see him. But like honestly, where is he?
Yeah.
in the stadium.
That was strange.
It was odd. But you do start to see some of the issues in a game like yesterday,
Yeah.
where the lead is totally blown and it's multiple people's fault, but at the end of the day, it's the pitching as a unit that crumbles and breaks down.
Yeah, I mean, let's get the obvious out of the way. Tyler McGill sent down to Syracuse. Nothing against Tyler, but I think that was coming, especially after yesterday's performance. They hand him a 5-run lead. He can't
talked about that
hold
last
it.
week.
We talked about that last week, and it was inevitable, especially with Christian Scott coming back up this week. Jose Butto been pitching very well. They have a lot of other options, not named Tyler McGill. Welcome back to Syracuse, Tyler. Yeah, but that's a starter, okay? The bullpen then was the catalyst to lose that game on Saturday, yesterday.
Yes. Blew a 5-run lead, by the way. That's
Yes.
what ultimately happened.
Anthony DiComo called bullpen a house of cards in the absence of
Ooh.
Diaz, which I think is a really good analogy.
I like
it's
that.
like they were balancing, they were teetering, they weren't losing these games, they were giving up a couple runs. You know they're tired even with the off days this week. It's like because they lose a roster spot with Diaz, couldn't replace that spot, so they're down a guy. Then somebody also has to close these games. So those middle innings are really depleted in terms of who's going to be out there, especially with the Drew Smith injury. He might need Tommy John. So the Mets at this point are without Drew Smith, Brooks Raley for the year, and then obviously Diaz. Now the rest of the cast of characters, Jake Diekman, Reed Garrett, they've been trying to hold it together, but there's only so much they can do, especially when these starters are not going deep in games, which Tyler McGill could not do on Saturday. We've seen Jose Quintana do that multiple times. So we've seen this starting group, though they're not pitching badly, they can't get past the 5th or 6th inning. And when you have a bullpen that is so heavily depleted, it's not going to lead to good things.
The people who are still on Mets Twitter saying you need to sell, this team's not going to make it, don't go for a run, are the people who view this as the biggest issue. And honestly, from a standpoint of the bullpen being the biggest issue, I would tend to agree with that.
I mean, it is an issue. And yes, Edwin Diaz will come back, and we'll all try to calm down. But I think it's become very clear to fans that they need a couple of arms in that bullpen. I'm almost surprised. I understand the deadline's approaching, but I'm almost surprised that we're not making some just little moves for some guys that we can, some little trades here and there. They need a couple of fresh arms. They brought a couple up from Syracuse today. I mean, to be quite frank with you, I've never really been familiar with the guys that they brought up today, so we'll see what happens there. But they've regularly had to provide 3-4 innings of relief a night without a closer. So the bullpen needs help.
And that's the thing. It's not just a matter of, oh, you know, these guys are blowing it. It's also a matter of that's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Totally.
And it was bad timing. That's not that there's ever a good time for it, but it really was bad timing. In a way, it felt like it stifled their momentum. That being said, you see a game like yesterday, you feel discouraged. You see a game like today, you feel encouraged. I say that hesitantly because we need to see how the game ends. Yeah. And like Ashley mentioned, we're in a rain delay. But still, I feel like, I guess what I will say is I feel like every single night this team's in the fight. And as a fan, that's all you can ask for.
That really is all you can ask for.
Again, leads us to another topic that we had that I think is interesting. When you think about in the fight, why is this mentality different? we have to talk about Mendoza
Yeah.
and we have to talk about the impact that he's made. Obviously, yes, the bullpen is still a challenge, but I like what you wrote here about John Harper. He had a couple good ones this week.
Yeah, he did. He said, I got the chance to talk to key people at Citi Field, and it confirmed my sense that Mendoza is making an impact as manager. He's earned respect in the clubhouse with feel for the game and the way he holds players accountable. He backed Diaz publicly, but the team knows he was angry with him.
Love that.
Love that. And
Love
that
that.
is, I would say, not that I have any experience doing it, but the hardest part about managing in New York. In New York, you know that you're going to have to answer to the media in a way that no other market does in the entire country.
And it's not close.
And it's not close. You know the media is coming for your throat when things are bad and when you make a questionable decision. At the same time, as a first-year manager, it can be really difficult to balance that, okay, there are guys who have been here and predate me by years and years. Their names are Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso and a lot of the guys on this team. You have to earn their respect. And I think a large part of earning their respect is exactly that last sentence. He backed Diaz publicly because the press is going to throw you to the wolves. You got to defend your guys. At the same time, in private and in those clubhouse moments, you have to let him know that that was not the right thing to do there. I mean, hey, buddy, to be blank with you, you just put us in a real bad spot for 10 days.
Like really bad. And I'm sure he knows that.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Yes. On the one hand, it shows that he's a player guy. And I think that even the fans can appreciate and respect that. At the same time, at least for me, I want a manager in there who holds players accountable.
Me too.
I want a manager who is a little bit pissed off and lets him know a little bit, hey man, especially after the fact, like it's not like we haven't talked about Diaz in a negative light in the past month, let's say.
Right.
Like there have been a couple of other things that have gone on, and I get it. At the end of the day, he's your closer. When he's at his best, he's great, and it's someone who you want on your team. But there's been a couple of things in a row where if I'm Mendoza, I'm really looking at him like, let's go, man. You know, like we really need you in a time like right now. So yeah, I think that the balance, the yin and yang kind of feel to all of that has been wonderful. And I feel like the same Mendoza that you're seeing now is the same Mendoza who you were seeing months ago when the Mets were not in nearly as good of a place. And I appreciate that. I feel like he believed really early on, even when some fans might have lost hope.
I think that's a really important thing, too, when I'm talking about the media and the press. Carlos Mendoza is out there having the same press conferences that he was having in May when things are, he is even-keeled when it matters in front of who it matters in front of. At the same time, he has proven to us somewhat. I mean, we haven't seen a ton.
Sure.
But somewhat. We were at the beginning of this podcast sitting here being like, I want a little more Terry Collins. I want a little more fire. I want him to get in some of these guys' faces, especially in May when they suck. No other way to put it. So to hear those things that guys are coming around and starting to respect him and respect his decision making is good to hear. Also, you got to give him credit for, I can assume it was him. Maybe it was someone higher up in the front office, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume that he made the decision to put Francisco Lindor in leadoff. That has paid off big time. So Carlos Mendoza is earning our respect, and I think is earning the respect of the fan base, not just because they're winning right now. It's some of these other things that we're getting insight on.
Never too high, never too low.
Yeah.
In a place like New York, I feel like sometimes that energy is needed, and you have to respect it. Last but not least, we just needed to shout it out because it hasn't happened in some time. Jeff McNeil hit a home run. It was his first home run at Citi Field since September 24th of last year. And as we mentioned, Candelita is hitting. He's hitting over 400. But just needed to at least point it out. As you mentioned, I still think out of all the guys, Jeff McNeil's the one who you kind of feel about a little bit.
Yeah.
And you feel like Candelita is really just rocket shipping this team to the moon.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. He hit home run.
I mean, it was good to see Jeff McNeil smile. I will say that. It's not like we've rooted against any of these guys.
Never.
It may have been the cheapest line drive home run that I've literally ever seen in the history of Citi Field. I sent it to my dad, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a cheaper home run than that. But it was a home run. And you know what? He hadn't hit one since last September. So we'll give it to Jeff McNeil. At the end of the day, you want everyone to feel good when it teams like this. So Jeff McNeil, good stuff. Keep doing it.
Final thoughts on the New York Mets. Maybe we can get a little score update.
Final thoughts. I'm turning to my phone. They are still delayed. I did want to say something else that someone pointed out to me this week that that the Mets have actually had, this is really interesting. I think you'll think this is interesting because of the Candelita stuff. Okay, Dan Gerard, I knew him from big, longtime Mets fan. He listens to the podcast. He works in sports media to an extent. He said, I've come to the realization that the best Mets teams had a song that defined their respective teams. Now, we're too young to know about this, but this is interesting. 1969, You Gotta Have Heart from Damn Yankees. 1986, Let's Go, Mets Go. 1999, LA Woman. 2000, Who Let the Dogs Out. 2006, Taking Care of Business. 2015, Holiday Road. And 2022, The Trumpets, Narco. So that's an interesting thought. Maybe this is a team that needs to be a little High School Musical.
And High School Musicals. And honestly, I will say this, the song and the fact that that was the title of the song just perfectly, like the description of that fits so well with the description of this season.
Yeah.
So I love it as the song of the year. Really, my last final thought is just when we talk about the fact that, okay, at this point they have 14 straight until the All-Star break. That's what's up next. It's against 4 bad teams. No other way to phrase it.
Yeah.
4 with the Nats, 4 with the Pirates on the road, and then home for 3 more against the Nats, 3 against the Rockies. I know that we always talk about, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But I'm just going to view it as positive. I just am. It's a good time for them to get ahead. It's a good time for us to see what they can do against bad teams. And honestly, if anything else, yes, I know at the end of the day, we're going to need to see the ways that they're performing against some of the top teams. But the more I see them win, the more hopeful I become, period.
Yep.
Like, they're just playing great baseball, and I want to see how long it continues.
No matter how you slice it, got to capitalize until the All-Star break. I would like them to win today. I would like to take that series from the Astros, prove something again. We're also in a spot that I'd like to point out. All Mets fans are now in this very high spot where we actually don't expect them to lose ever. And, they're going to lose a series
Everybody
again.
brace yourselves.
They are going to lose a series, folks. It's going to happen. They could lose one of those bad team series, and then everybody's going to, me included. But got to capitalize no matter how you slice it and go into the All-Star break with the best record you possibly can have.
No doubt. As far as the Syracuse Mets, right now they're second in the International League East, 4-1 in that second half of the year. I feel maybe just give people that 45-seconder again on how that all works. I think to some people that honestly might be their first time hearing that.
It's very confusing. Minor League Baseball, AAA, has now switched to 2 years ago. Only 2 teams make the playoffs. They basically have this kind of championship series at the end of the year. The first half of the season, which just ended last week, there's a first half title winner. Then the slate gets wiped clean. There's a second half title winner. The first half title winner gets to host the series at the end of the year. Omaha won that. The Syracuse Mets came in second. They were very much in contention for that, finished about 4 games back. So they will not host in Syracuse, which is unfortunate for us.
Blows.
But they could still win the second half and still be kind of in that championship series. Second half started this week.
And that's why we say 4-1. They won 4 out of 5 from the Bison so far for that second half of the year. And as we mentioned, Tyler McGill was sent down. So at this point, we're just going to have to see. I mean, honestly, kind of interesting. I hope that we can get to a couple of games while he is here, but we just need to see what happens. Obviously, we haven't been overly pleased with what we've seen recently.
Yes, I think we are going to see, as I said before, Christian Scott come up and start this week. Even Jose Butto could get a shot. So
I think people really like Scott.
I think the fans really want Christian Scott to be something.
Like, they're behind him.
Yeah.
You can tell that after every single start.
Mets fans love young pitchers, which we've seen throughout the years. So Christian Scott could be the next one of those guys. But the Syracuse Mets still doing well. I think the Syracuse Mets are just going to be in that race all summer long. One of the best teams in the International League. They come home this week, Monday to Wednesday. They actually have a split week, which is really weird because usually they play all home or all away. This week they're home the first half of the week. They go to the Woo Sox the second half of the week.
And they're not here on July 4th. I have to say I was a little bummed about that.
Sad.
I feel like to have a July 4th game, like I'm wondering if there's going to be fireworks on their July 2nd or July 3rd game. So I will be letting you know because I want to go to another game this week. But yeah, at this point, we will, of course, continue to update you. Keep an eye on Acuna. He's someone who's still hot, still doing well right now. But beyond that, let's go Mets. Let's see what happens. And we will plan on seeing you guys next week for episode 9. Hard to believe, but true.
And oh my God.
Oh my God. Bye. That's showbiz, baby.